All right. Hello and welcome to another sales chat. Absolutely fantastic to welcome Amy Franko. How are you doing, Amy?
Hey, John, I'm great. How are you doing? It's good to be back with you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and my name is John Golden from SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine and Pipeliner CRM. I'm here in San Diego, beautiful sunny morning, and I'm joined also by my colleague, Martha Neumeister, who is in lovely Vienna, Austria. Will you
Yeah,
say
hi
hello to
guys.
everyone?
Hi.
Hello.
And Martha is going to be looking after the Twitter chat. So hashtag sales chats. So please make sure you join in. And also, as we're live on YouTube, please make sure you share the URL with your friends and colleagues. And today we're going to talk about the three elements to a winning sales plan. And Amy, for those of you who haven't come across Amy yet, is Amy's a strategic sales expert, keynote speaker. She's built a successful and lucrative B2B sales career at global tech giants IBM and Lenovo. And then in 2007, she launched her own training company, Impact Instruction Group. All right, Amy. So we're going to talk about a winning sales plan. So let's baseline this for a moment. What are the key factors or key elements in building an effective sales plan?
Yeah, so this is a topic that's really top of mind right now with lots of my clients, and we are coming into the back half of a calendar year of what has proven to be a wild ride so far this year. There isn't one person that hasn't been affected by what's happening out in the world, but successful sellers, successful sales organizations, even though they are dealing with what's right here, they also have an eye to the future, right? So thinking about sales planning and what is going to help us be successful, not only in the back half of this year, but as we come into 2021. And so when I'm working with my clients on successful sales planning and what does the sales plan look like, there are lots of pieces that go into it. But the three that we're going to dive into here today is really taking a look at your key goals and key milestones that you want to accomplish, looking at the key verticals that are going to help you get there. And what your verticals look like today might look a little bit different, just given world events. And then who are the best target ideal clients that we want to be working with that are going to help us to be successful, and we help them to be successful. So those are the three that I wanted to take some time to dig into in our conversation today.
Excellent. And like you said, I mean, we're obviously living in strange times. So not only are sales plans or planning in general, the timeframes and windows have shrunk, right? Because I mean, once upon a time, maybe people were doing 2 or 3 year plans. Now they're maybe 1 year plans. Now, now they're doing 3 month, 6 month, 9 month plans. And again, as you said, you have to revisit and look at who your audience is, who your target market is. Are you in an industry that has been particularly badly hit right now? So do you have to maybe try and move into adjacent markets, or do you need to pivot your product? So in some ways, or in many ways, it's even more complicated than ever.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate your point is about the timelines of this type of planning. It used to be that you'd be looking at 3-year plans and 5-year plans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that's doing that right now. I mean, you're looking at maybe a year out. To your point, half a year. It's like what's right in front of us. It's so easy to be mired down in what's right in front of us. And we have to solve for what's right in front of us, but we also have to be looking out further. It's that strategic speed. What's out ahead a year, and how do we back that up to milestones that we're going to be hitting? And planning and thinking strategically about our plans can help us optimize that success.
All right, so let's dive into the three elements, Amy.
Yeah. So let's start with the key goals and milestones. This is really this one might sound obvious, but it's amazing how much this might get skipped over. And one of the things that I'm always looking at with sales planning is how do you keep this thing from not developing digital dust. How many of us have done sales plans or business plans or whatever? We are so into it, and we're creating our deliverables, but then 3 months down the road, it's like, oh, what is that? It's been in the same file on my computer for the last 6 months. So one of the things to really ground ourselves is looking at those key goals and milestones. So that could look like revenue and profit by vertical. And I know we'll talk about verticals a little bit more. What are the key clients that we need to retain? A lot of this right now is about retention. How are we retaining the clients that we have and finding opportunities to grow with them where it makes sense? Like you said, we might be in a vertical that's getting hammered right now, but we still want to be taking a look at the clients that we have. They already trust us. They're already working with us. How do we grow those and make sure we keep them and we don't lose them to a competitor? And then, so looking at your client growth, current client growth, and what are the new clients that we want to be adding to the mix? Who are our target prospects? So having that balance of new clients and current clients. And then lastly, oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going to say on that point about your current clients is that you may not be top of mind with those right now. They have maybe other things that are going on, and you may be way down the list. So you have to be clever and thoughtful and elegant in your outreach to them, so that they will engage with you and they will give you the insights about whether they are going to continue, whether they're going to renew business with you, whatever. But you need to be able to approach them in a thoughtful and elegant fashion, because people are a little stressed right now, and you're going to be very easy for them to ignore unless you take into account their situation and not just yours.
Yeah, and you hit on something important, which is thinking about everything from their perspective. They may not be thinking about the opportunity that we've been working on. Their mind is elsewhere. And really taking the approach of what can I do to be helpful right now? What can I do to help you think about your business, which may not have anything to do with the project that we were working on? That's a whole different level in my mind that we have to get to as sales professionals, where we're really seen as advisors to their business, not just advisors in a specific opportunity. So yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that, especially right now, we are not high on many customers' priority lists because they have so many other things they're dealing with.
Yeah. And don't fall into that trap, as we saw for the first few months of this, is just sending emails like, oh, just checking in, see how you're doing during the COVID crisis and all of that. Because after you got maybe the third or fourth of those emails, you were like, when people stop sending me those emails. So like I said,
I know,
and like you were just saying right now, is make sure that you're adding some value, you're being thoughtful, you're thinking about things from their point of view, and you're giving them a reason to want to engage with you.
That's exactly it. If I don't know about you, but in the early stages of all this, every single email had COVID. If it wasn't in the subject header, it was in the first sentence. Okay. So after a couple months of that, the sentiment among my clients and other people I've been talking with is like, all right, we're not past it, but we're past it. So to your point, how do we, one thing that's been working well for me is I've been reaching out to current clients and also clients. We might not be doing business together, but we know each other. We have a relationship. And I have been very intentionally reaching out to them, either through email, through phone, through video, to talk about trends. What's happening in the marketplace? What are some of the things that I'm seeing that might be valuable for you to be thinking about? That type of conversation has gotten a lot of traction and has gotten me, it might, 20 or 30-minute calls, maybe. But that's enough to continue the conversation and continue the relationship with them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a critically important one, because you have connections and insights that they don't have, because you work with a lot of different customers and maybe a lot of customers in their particular industry or whatever. So you have insights that are very, very useful to them. So yeah, I would absolutely encourage people to do what you're doing and actually bring some insights that your clients or even former customers or even your prospects wouldn't have otherwise. And
that could feed back into your planning process. It's your outreach that can feed into, maybe you uncover a vertical, maybe you uncover a new target prospect, maybe you uncover a new opportunity. It might not be something that they act on right now, but it's something to plan for into the future that can then feed back into the planning process that you go through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the second part of the process.
Yep. So I want to add one more thing just to the goals and milestones very briefly before we jump in. As you're thinking about your planning for 2021, what's a stretch goal in your sales plan that you want to be working towards? So you've got your revenue and your profit targets. You have your current clients, your new clients. What's a stretch goal that you want to be working toward? I think that's really important right now, to have something that's out of the comfort zone that you can be reaching towards. So I encourage, as you're planning, think about what that is, whether it's as a team or as an individual, if you're doing an individual plan. So I just wanted to hit that.
No, I think that's a really important point to raise, because the temptation is to just pull everything back and be very, very, very conservative, which is a proper thing to do. But once you've pulled it all the way back, as you say, then you want to increase it a bit and have a stretch goal so that you're not just focused on survival.
Yep. So I'll use myself as an example. One of the stretch goals that I had been working toward throughout this pandemic, I call it my pandemic initiative, is I have a strategic selling program that I have very much delivered in person, live audience, if you will. And the stretch goal was to completely transition that into a digital experience. So that's something that my organization, we've been working on as a team for the last 6 months to bring that to market, and we'll hopefully open up some new opportunities, some new verticals. So I share that example with everybody who's watching and listening to just spark some creativity about what a stretch goal could be for your team or for yourself that could then feed back into your planning and open up some new opportunities.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So second part.
All right. So the second part is to be thinking about your verticals. When I'm working with clients, and especially clients who are, they may not have verticals assigned to them. So you have to be thinking about your own territory, your own book of business. You might be a seller or a sales team that has very defined verticals already. You might be selling into manufacturing. You might be selling into public sector. There might be some people watching that have kind of wide open space, if you will. You can select where you go in order to build your territory or build your book of business. So it doesn't matter where you're at. You can use this concept to help you plan for your particular situation. But thinking about your verticals or your sub verticals that are going to be the most successful for you. So, really 1 or 2 cornerstone clients in a vertical can really amplify your ability to be successful. So when we can verticalize and focus in specific areas, and then we win some cornerstone clients there, or they're part of our plan, we can then become even more successful in that vertical. I've also found verticalization to help with prospecting efforts. There's opportunity costs, right? With prospecting efforts, opportunity costs with marketing, generating thought leadership. When you can really go deep into a vertical and be successful with it, you can then balance out the opportunity costs that go along with all the activities that have to take place to build that credibility in that vertical. So as you're planning out and thinking strategically about those opportunity costs and balancing that against your verticals, which verticals are going to have the most opportunity for you or for your team in the next 6 months, in the next year? And focus your efforts in there, because there's a lot of verticals that are hurting right now, and you have to make some strategic decisions about where to invest your efforts.
Yeah, no, I think that absolutely, I totally agree. And I think that as you said, I think if you have a couple of cornerstone customers in a particular vertical, you should examine that vertical, but you should also leverage those customers to give you more insight into that vertical. So why is your product or service helping them, particularly, not in a general way, but in a specific way, pertinent to their actual vertical they're in. And then you can do research based on that. And then, as you said, it means that you can prospect to other people in that vertical using the correct language, using the correct approach, hitting the correct pain points, all of that good stuff, if you put that little bit of extra effort into it. And maybe, as you say, maybe right now you have to get a little uncomfortable in the verticals you're going to go after, because, as you said, I mean, if you're used to working a particular vertical, say the airline industry is your particular vertical, and you're going, okay, right now this ain't the best one to be in.
Right.
I may have to go out. It's maybe you have to go outside into, I don't know, something adjacent to that, or something completely separate, but you have to be comfortable in being a little bit uncomfortable.
And you're hitting on something that I wanted to make sure I remembered to share, which is this idea of majors and minors. Might have different vocabulary in different industries, but if, for example, aviation is your vertical, maybe there are parts of that vertical, minors, if you will, that are successful. They might be, like you said, they might be adjacent, they might be within the vertical, but what are some of those sub verticals or those minors that you could be focusing on?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean, for instance,
might find some pockets there.
You know, maybe the private jet industry is doing, because I believe that's doing pretty well right now, because people don't want to be on commercial airlines. So there's somewhere, maybe you haven't focused on that, but maybe there's opportunities in there.
Yeah, and I have some thinking about some of my professional services clients. I have one that focuses in healthcare, and so healthcare is a really big vertical. But thinking about where can you specialize even within that vertical. So so this client had a home healthcare sub-vertical that has been very successful for them. So it all falls within that healthcare umbrella, but where are those pockets that you can amplify and really be the differentiator? So you're not following your competitors, you're there and you're leading the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so critical to engage everybody in the organization in this, like identifying the vertical, and then get marketing aligned, get everybody aligned in there, so that you can go full bore and give it the full core press when you go into it. Because I think there's nothing worse than kind of dipping your toe in the water a little bit, because it never really works that well. You have to identify the vertical and really make sure you're prepared and go for it properly.
Yeah, you hit on something, which is the research piece of it. So research as a team, research as an organization that says we're committed to this vertical. We're also committed to these sub verticals, because your marketing efforts need to go toward that. Your prospecting efforts need to go toward that. So there's this blend here of planning that's at the strategic organizational level. But then if you're an individual seller and you're within these verticals, planning within your own territory, your own book of business.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and the third element.
Yeah, so the third element is really figuring out your target clients within those verticals. And these two things really go together. So as you're thinking about your verticals, thinking about your majors and minors, thinking about where you see the best opportunities as either an individual or an organization in the next year. Answering those questions first and doing that research first can then lead into really targeting the right prospects, and then also really amplifying your current clients. You have current clients within those verticals, I'm going there first, because those are relationships that I already have. I'm gonna build out my targets within there, but then I'm also gonna build out my target prospective clients that I want to be building relationships with. Because right now it might take a little bit more time, unless there's a real triggering event that is that's causing them to reach out. Unless there's a real triggering event, it could take some time to cultivate these relationships and uncover those opportunities.
Yeah, no, and 100%. And I think the other part as well is, now is the time to, well, it's always the time, but now particularly is the time to ask for referrals. When you have those customers in a vertical, and even as you say, even if it's going to take a long time, or you have to cultivate it over time, maybe talk to them about others in the industry, maybe their suppliers, their partners, or whatever, and sort of ask them, like, here's what we're doing for you or proposing to do for you. Are there other people who you think could benefit from the same services or whatever? But don't be afraid to ask right now, because you need to have as big a pipeline of prospects as you can, of the right prospects.
Yeah, and I like to think of those as introductions. So if I'm thinking about my current clients, let's say maybe I want to leverage my current clients a bit to help me find some potential new clients. I always think about it in terms of introductions. Would you be willing to introduce me to, and if I have a name, a role, something specific to help speed that along even better? Can I have an introduction to so-and-so? I'd like to at least just have an initial conversation with them to learn more about their business, and maybe there are ways we can work together in the future. I found that to be really successful in just expanding my network. And not every one of those introductions turns into a prospect. They don't always turn into a target, but it's expanding the network. And like you said, it's improving what you can put into the top of the funnel.
Yeah. And then what you were saying about, just working on the relationship, even though it may take a while. Again, this goes back to the fact that you have to find ways of engaging with them where they value your contact, as opposed to, here's John again.
There's Amy again. Yeah, isn't that the truth? I was actually, just before we got onto this conversation, I was with a manufacturing client. And so we were actually talking about some of these ideas, which ties nicely into this conversation. And what I challenged them to do, so I had a group of sellers on Zoom, right? What I challenged them to do was to go to their top 5 clients, their best customers, and to go to the decision makers there that they work with and ask them 2 questions. What is the personal value that you see in us working together? So you, John, what's the value that you see in us working together? And what's the value that your organization sees in us working together? And just listening and learning what they see as valuable. And then maybe they will also share some things where there are opportunities for improvement. That is a great connection point with a current customer, a current client, that can help you continue to add value. And when you're going back to your planning process, it gives you good insight, like you said, to help if you're going into a vertical or an adjacent, gives you good insight into what those organizations generally value, or what an individual decision maker values that another decision maker might value. So it's good intelligence, and it's good relationship building all at the same time.
It is, absolutely. And I think the other thing that you touched on there is that you gotta prepare for these calls, right? You gotta do proper planning, because otherwise you won't remember to ask questions like that. You won't remember. You'll end up asking the really kind of superficial, bland ones, like, how's everything going right now? How's everything in your company?
I'm just checking
How are you
in.
dealing with I'm just checking in, just checking in. So you got to do your planning. And I still think to this day, this is the number one place that some less successful salespeople fall down in, is because they have all of their meetings and their all appointments all scheduled out beautifully, but they never schedule proper prep time for those meetings. They never prepare their questions. They never prepare, what is my ideal outcome? If I can't get that, what's the second one? All of the kind of basic stuff. And I think that's even more important than ever when you're having these conversations, is to make sure that you've planned them out properly so they flow and they're not awkward.
Yeah, there's this theme here of planning for at the high level strategically, at the conversation level. There is nothing worse, at least for me, when I'm looking at my calendar and it's back to back, and I'm coming into a sales conversation, or maybe it's an implementation conversation, whatever it is, and I just don't feel prepared. I didn't do my homework. I don't have my agenda. I don't know what I want to accomplish. There's not a worse feeling for me, because I don't feel confident. I don't feel like I can take us through the outcomes that we want to get to. And then it's not valuable for them either. Yeah. And so having that time to plan, it doesn't have to be overly planned. It could be 15 minutes of planning, just to be thoughtful and to know what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than them being on the other end and feeling that the person you're talking to is sort of thinking, going, why are we having this conversation?
Right. Yeah. I've heard this statistic. I've heard a couple people quote this statistic. I heard it when I was at a conference, and I heard it from a professor or a researcher from Florida State University, and he presented some research around. It was a bunch of different data statistics, but the one that really stood out to me was in a 1 hour conversation, a decision maker or the person that we're having the conversation with, on average, sees only about 6 minutes of value in that 1 hour conversation. So that was the first place that I heard that statistic. And whether or not you buy into the value of that particular number, the concept to drive home is so important, which is there are so many conversations that we have that are not valuable in the eyes of the person that we're talking to, and we have opportunity to improve that.
Yeah, absolutely. At least make that 6 minutes memorable. Start there and build
right.
and build from there. All right. Before we end up, Amy, please just go through another recap of the 3 steps again for everyone.
Yeah. So as you're thinking about your planning going into back half of this year, next year, be very mindful of the key goals and milestones that you're looking to accomplish. Be really mindful of the verticals, the majors and the minors that you want to be focusing in that have the best odds of success for you coming into the back half of this year and next year. And then what are your target clients? Your target clients, and then the decision maker personas that go along with them. If you really focus in on those 3 things, you are going to get much further, much faster by being planful. It's going to help you manage everything from marketing efforts, prospecting efforts, pipeline efforts, if you focus in those 3 areas.
Yeah, I love it. And by the way, that's the takeaway word of the day is planful. I want everybody to remember that. I love that word. Thank you for that. I'm going to add that to my vocabulary now. So I think that's the big takeaway from all of this, is to be planful in everything you do, at the macro level to the micro level.
I hope that's Amy, a word.
Yeah, well, it is now. Well, as I always say,
it's in the Urban Dictionary now.
Well, the English language is a living, breathing entity, so you can add words to it. So I worked one time in a K-12 education startup where there was a lot of very top English and reading educational experts in there, and they kept telling me that words like impactful didn't exist, and I said, well, it does for me and it does for our marketing.
I like the way you think. I'm going with that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, before we go, there's one other thing that we always like to ask our guests, and that's, Amy, what is your power tip? What is the one thing that you do every day to set yourself up for success?
Mindset and outlook are so important right now, and being in the right outlook, having the right outlook, drives all of our activities. And I would say the one thing that I do very consistently, maybe not every day, but consistently throughout the week, is exercise. That puts me, it just helps put me in the right mindset, the right outlook. It helps me to be successful with so many other things in my life.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that's so critically important because of what it does to not just your body, but your mind. And I'm a big believer in my healthy mind, healthy body, healthy mind, etc. So thank you for that. Listen, this has been fantastic. Amy, I put Amy's contributor bio in the chat here, but also it's amyfranko.com if you want to learn. That's amyfranko.com. And there's her book, The Modern Seller, and all the other information about Amy is there for you. Martha, good Twitter chat today?
Everything okay, fine. You should reread.
I will indeed. And again, thank you, Amy. My name is John Golden, SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine. I'll see you all for another sales chat.